Hey gang, Craig Ripley here. Welcome once again to Living Off the Slab. Now today what we're going to do is talk about some tips for taking your first cross-country tour. And how I got these tips is I reached out to my followers on YouTube, my followers on Facebook, as well as those who have joined my little online community. And I asked them, based on your experience, what is the advice that you would give to a first-time motorcycle traveler who was going to take a first cross-country trip? Now, of course, I got some great suggestions from my viewers, and I've broken them down into several categories, and we're going to go over those, and then I'll give you some extra little tips that I would suggest as well. So this first set of suggestions I am calling Take Your Time, because that's really what my viewers were trying to say here. And here, let me read some of them. James, he suggested this. He said, my biggest advice would be to learn how to make your riding days a little shorter. Smell a few more roses. See a few more roadside attractions or scenic look-offs. Realize that you can't do everything and don't try to fit everything into your schedule. Understand that schedules are only a framework and that you need to be flexible. Longtime buddy Craig, not me, another Craig, he suggests this. He said, I would tell them to just pick a direction and then let their heart and soul decide the rest of the journey. And my good friend Sue from England, who we met while we were out traveling the Blue Ridge Parkway, Sue is an amazing lady. Right? She's in her 70s and she's traveled all over the United States, Canada, and Europe. But she says this. It says, never set off if you're limited on how long it's going to take. When you find something extra, stay a little bit longer. She says, I never book hotels. I just go with the flow when traveling in the United States and Europe. And finally, Jason says this. While I personally haven't always taken this advice, to my own disappointment, I would recommend planning shorter rides than you think you can make. Try to stay under 300 miles per day. That allows you to take time to stop and see things along the route other than just the road, as well as keeping you from getting weary and tired, and of course, less alert. Now, all of these riders are passing along basically the same great suggestion, and that is to slow down, take your time, and enjoy the ride. Right? Far too often, we motorcycle riders get caught up in putting on those big miles every day, and we forget to stop and smell those proverbial roses. As one friend of mine put it, it seems like sometimes all we're doing is riding between gas stations and convenience stores. So when possible, I like to keep my daily mileage down to 200 to 300 miles a day. By limiting my days to that 200 or 300 miles, I have that time to take an extra hour out to see something if I really like it. Now, while all of us are suggesting that you slow down, limit your daily mileage, we also understand that while you're working, well, that's not always possible. If you are limited to 2 weeks, well, sometimes you're going to have to put in longer miles. But try to keep those down to the bare minimum. Really try to relax and try to slow down and enjoy your trip. And let me throw in one other thing here. And that is, along with limiting your daily mileage if possible, also stop more often. Right? I've gotten to the point now where I stop about once an hour, right? To go to the restroom, walk around, keep my head fresh. Right? Trying to put in, 200 miles at a shot from one gas station to the next, well, that gets old after a while. Right? Especially as, like me, you start to get older. Right? So I really try to just take my time and said stop every 100 miles or every hour even, right, while I'm traveling, especially when I'm traveling by myself. So the next suggestion I'm calling roll with the changes, and it comes from my buddy Gordon. So Gordon says, choose your travel companions wisely, and of course you all must be willing to roll with the changes as they will surely arise. And Gordon is giving great advice here. Right? Don't set out on a trip and not know who it is that you're riding with. I've done that on a couple occasions, and it can get you in a little bit of trouble. right? So try to really make sure that you're riding with people that you know that you are compatible with. Now, Gordon is also right when he says that changes are going to happen. No matter how well you plan, and we all know that I love planning my trips, but there are always going to be unforeseen things that arise, and you can choose to get upset about them. I've been known to do that myself, right? Or you can just try to relax and deal with them. And of course, the latter is the best way to do that. So next up, I have some suggestions about being prepared. My viewer Steve says that I guess an emergency roadside kit would be number one. Good suggestion. Leonard says make sure your bike is serviced and mechanically good, especially make sure your tires are good. And Frank, all the way from Australia, says, for those taking their first cross-country trip, I would advise that you learn how to repair or change a flat tire, be it tubeless or tubed. So again, these riders make great suggestions, right? You want to make sure that your bike is in good mechanical working order before you leave, especially your tires. If you're going to leave on a 6,000 mile trip with 1,000 miles left on your tire, well, that's just plain dumb. And of course, you should know how to do basic repairs on your motorcycle, especially either change a tube or plug a tire. You don't want to wait until you're stranded on the side of the road in the Mojave Desert to have that be your first attempt at repairing a tire. So next up, we have some suggestions about gear. So Jeff says, taking quality wicking undergarments, chapstick, Gold Bond powder, and Desitin diaper rash cream, in that order, is absolutely a lifesaver. Oh yeah, don't forget to have a big list of tunes. And again, our friend Leonard says, get a decent helmet, textile jacket, and riding pants with rain liners and quilted liners. A couple pairs of gloves for different temperatures and weather. Have a few changes of clothes. Now, both Jeff and Leonard are reminding us that getting good quality gear is essential to being safe and being comfortable out there while we're riding. If you ride far enough, you're going to get rain, you're going to get hot, you're going to get cold. Changes in the weather is just going to happen, so you want to make sure that you are prepared for it. And that suggestion with taking a couple of pair of gloves, well, that's a good one. And make sure that they are waterproof. All of my gear is now Gore-Tex or waterproof membrane lined. I've now gone to using a couple of different membranes, but always make sure that my gear is 100% waterproof. It's a lifesaver. It is very common for we motorcycle riders to go out and spend huge amounts of money on our bikes, right? Not just purchasing the bike, but adding all kinds of farkles to them. But yet, when it comes to buying gear that is going to save our life or keep us comfortable while we're riding, we oftentimes, well, we cheap out. And that's probably the opposite of how we should do this. We should go out and we should buy the best gear that we can possibly afford to cover our bodies, to keep ourselves safe while we're riding, and then whatever we have left over, well, then we should spend it on the motorcycle. That's not the way it works, but it's probably the way that it should be. The next set of suggestions come from Gordon and Leonard once again, and they are suggesting that you try to pack a little bit lighter. Gordon says, pack lighter and choose stays where there's a washer and dryer. And Leonard reminds us not to take too much. If you forget something, there are always stores out there on the road. Again, these riders are giving us some great advice. We just do not need to take that much stuff with us on a motorcycle trip. It is very common for everybody to overpack, and it takes some experience to figure out exactly how little you need to take with you. For example, I've gotten down to where I now take 3 days worth of clothing with me. And then I simply stop and I wash it along the way at regular intervals. As Gordon suggests, you can stop at a hotel that has a washer and dryer, or if you're out camping, you can even wash it in a stream inside one of your stuff sacks. Right, so it's always possible to keep yourself clean, keep yourself dry, but not carry dozens and dozens of pairs of socks and underwear. And Leonard also makes a great point when he suggests that here in the United States, there are stores everywhere. right? There's always a Walmart in about just every town, at least in every major city, where you can go in and you can pick up any essentials that you need, including toothpaste, including toilet paper, including food, right? It's everywhere. Next set of questions, well, they again come from Gordon and Robert. And they are reminding us that you need to stay hydrated while you are out there on the road. Right? Gordon says simply hydrate. And then Robert says get a motor jug and a large Yeti cup. Again, stay hydrated. Well, this is far more important than most of us realize, right? Staying hydrated is going to keep us from getting headaches, keep us from getting tired, keep us from getting sick out there while we're riding. So again, drinking plenty of water is really what you want to do consistently throughout the day. Now, I've done plenty of videos on this subject, and you should go and check those out if you want to learn more. So I got another suggestion from a viewer, Bob, who believes that the first-time cross-country traveler should learn how to stealth camp. Well, I have to be honest with you, I am not a big fan of stealth camping. It is one thing to go out and boondock on BLM land or in national forest land where you're allowed to do so, but camping on private property without the permission of the owner, again, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So personally, I wouldn't want somebody doing that on my land, so I'm going to return the favor and I'm not going to do it on theirs. Again, but the choice, that's yours. And the final topic that we're going to talk about is working your way up to a big trip. One of my viewers, Brent, says, I would appreciate seeing a series of gradually increased trips to get ready for cross country. Regional in 1 week, then work up to a regional 2 week, and then a month-long trip, etc., etc. And I absolutely agree with Brent here. That's the way that I started. I first got my bike in 2006 when I returned to motorcycling, and I started going out on long weekend trips and then week-long trips by myself. And then I gradually worked my way up to 3-week trips and 4-week trips, and now we're doing a 75-day trip coming up here in 2022. So that is definitely the way that you want to approach this. Go out and do these smaller trips. Find out what you like. Try some smaller trips with hotels. Try some smaller trips camping. Maybe mix it up. Again, find out how long you like to ride every day. Are you enjoying that 200 or 300 miles a day that most of us would suggest? Or are you the kind of rider that really likes to hammer out 500, 600 miles or even 1,000-mile days at a shot? Again, that is all a matter of preference. Again, my suggestion is to slow down and ride less, but some people just don't like to do that. So you got to find out what works for you. And the only way that you're going to do that is to take those smaller trips and just build upon each one of them till you figure out, again, what works best for you. Now, all of these suggestions are great ones, but they are just a place to start. We could go into a lot more detail about each one of these topics, plus we could find a whole lot more to talk about. Right, if you want to know more, I suggest that you go out and pick up my ebook. It talks about the process that I went through when I was returning back to motorcycling and I was trying to figure out how I was going to achieve my travel dreams while I was still holding down a full-time job. So I walk through that whole process of what I did. All right, guys, I think that's it. We'll talk to you next time when we'll have another great motorcycle topic.